We're here. She brought goodies today too. Pill boxes and handouts and all kinds of fun things. So today we have Dan Castaneda. She is going to speak on the basics of memory loss, dementia, and Alzheimer's disease. She's from the Alzheimer's Society. So please let's listen to her and learn about, are we confused, are we forgetful, is it normal, is it not normal? I can't remember half the stuff, so I'll be taking notes. So welcome.
Thank you, Jackie. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say happy birthday, Ione. The big 9-8. That's middle age now, you know. 98 is the new 80. I'm just a teenager. All right. Just a little bit of housekeeping. My name is Van Castaneda, and if I speak louder, is this better?
That's better. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, I'm not screaming in your ear. All right.
Okay.
My name is Van Castaneda. I'm the owner of Comfort Care Senior Services. I'm also a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Association. I love public speaking. I love educating, and that's why I'm here. 90% of my clients experience some form of Alzheimer's. So it's very personal for me as part of giving back to the community and teaching folks about this disease. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I am a speaker for them, so they love to get feedback about how I'm doing. And if there's areas of improvement, I love to get them on here as well. So before you leave, you can kindly fill one out for me. It takes maybe 30 seconds if you're a quick writer. Okay, it'll be right up here. We also have a lot of material up here from the Alzheimer's Association about the disease itself, about some of the events and the services available by the Alzheimer's Association. So on the way out, please come by and grab some things here. There's also some goodies for you, just to thank you for letting us be here. I know everyone loves pill boxes, so please don't take 10. You got to save it for the others. Okay? Okay, so let me get adjusted here. How many of you are here to learn about the disease because you fear for a loved one or for a friend? Okay, that's my next question. How many of you are here in fear for yourself? Wow, okay. All right. Well, I'm here to demystify a lot of the misunderstanding about some of the signs. Many people associate typical aging, loss of decline in certain things, memory, thinking, forgetfulness, with Alzheimer's, and that's not necessarily true. So I'm here to help put some peace of mind for some of you, okay? Any questions that I cannot answer, I will table it and get back with you. If you want to come by afterwards and maybe give me any kind of an email or something, I can follow up for you. Or we also have the Alzheimer's Association hotline that you'll see at the very end of the presentation, which you can call anytime. It's a 24-hour service. You can ask any question you have. And there also is a website that you can go to that has a million things that can help educate you or answer your questions as well. Okay? So please feel supported either through conversation or through our website. All right? Okay. So the presentation today is about memory loss, about dementia, and about Alzheimer's disease. How many people here know what dementia is?
I think I have it.
Okay. So she thinks she has it here. Well, I bet you don't. You just don't know it. So we'll clear that today. Okay. What's interesting about dementia, think of dementia as an umbrella of diseases of the mind. Kind of like cancer. Cancer is a different disease, but underneath cancer, you have breast cancer, you have lung cancer, prostate cancer. Well, that's what dementia is. It's an umbrella of the brain disease. Underneath dementia, the number one disease is Alzheimer's. That's why you hear the word dementia used frequently as Alzheimer's, only because most people have Alzheimer's. Okay? There are many diseases under dementia. Alzheimer's is 70% of that disease. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to be presenting to you the typical aging symptoms and Alzheimer's symptoms. There will be some guest speakers, and I hope this video works. There will be some guest speakers through the video that will talk about some of their personal experiences. And work, I'll recap it for you. Alrighty? This right here is Dr. Ron Peterson. He's an expert in the industry. I'm going to let him speak. Uh-oh.
No.
Oh, there's no speaker?
Should have a speaker.
This one's for me.
You need an audio cable.
Do we have an audio cable? No, okay, that's all right. We'll improvise. Dr. Ron Peterson is actually the director of the Mayo Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. What he's saying here is, baby boomers, it's time. They're catching up. They're getting older. And what that means is that the older you get, the higher chance of getting Alzheimer's disease. In 2011, January 1 of 2011, every day about 10,000 people turn 65. And the ratio of folks that are 65 that get Alzheimer's is 1 out of 8. When you pass 85, it's 4 out of 8. So what he's saying is the baby boomers are catching. As you get older, you're going to get higher risk of getting Alzheimer's, and there's no cure. Based on today's stats, Alzheimer's is the number 6 leading death, yet there's really no cure. So what he's saying, if we continue the same trajectory that we are on now, it's going to bankrupt the Medicare system because there's no cure. So that's what he's just talking about. Okay. All right, so typical aging. Many of you will experience this, including myself. And I want you to feel comfortable that there are distinguishing factors that will tell you whether it is a disease or it's just typical aging. Our bodies age just like our mind. You know, when we were 14, we ran so fast, no one can catch up. Now we walk so fast. So that's body aging. Our mind aging, we don't even realize it, but we do age because the cells, the neurons that make up our brain cells, they age and shrink over time. And that's why sometimes there are certain changes in you that make you wonder, well, what's going on? Okay? So the key is, with typical changes, they are sudden. And they were changes in either your mood, your personality, your ability physically, memory, thinking, thought. Those changes happen very suddenly. And say, for example, today I forgot where my purse is. But I can think about it, stop and think about it, and ask myself, where did I put it last? If I can go backwards and think like that and figure out where my purse is, that's not Alzheimer's. That's just typical aging forgetfulness. A lot of people have it. Now, if I forget my purse, I stop and I just can't understand how to go backwards in my step, trace my steps. I was in the restroom this morning. I was in the kitchen. I couldn't even think about those steps. And I was confused by it. That's different. If you cannot backtrack your thinking process and it's consistently happening, and you used to be as sharp as a pen, and now you're forgetting these steps, that is a significant change. So when I say typical aging, it's okay. We all forget our keys. We all forget our purse. We all forget why we went to the kitchen and we went downstairs 10 steps. It's okay. All right? All right, let's see here. I'm going to get you into the next screen, which is Joyce. Joyce is actually a very educated doctor who realized she had Alzheimer's symptoms, but yet didn't know what they were until she was diagnosed. She was a professional. One day she sat in her office and started typing an email and couldn't, for the name of God, even know how to type her name. And it took her an hour to type 2 sentences. That's not typical aging for her, because before that happened, how long does it take you to write an email, a little letter, maybe a few minutes? And she couldn't spell the words, she couldn't put the words together. That is a drastic change, because she was able to do it before, just fine, like everyone else. One day it stopped. And that's when she started noticing there's a problem. Then, as she was driving, which I know many of you are still driving, license. I have a lot of clients who don't have a driver's license and still drive. Okay? What she realized with her is that when she was driving, she would have these little minor accidents, running into a curb, rear-ending someone, minor bumps, little things like that. Then, when she started walking, she would start tripping. These are not typical aging changes because she was walking fine before. This is a big change for her in her balance, in her thinking, her ability to even spell the word the. It was very drastic. So that's what she was sharing is pay attention to your changes. You know yourself. You know your loved ones. If you can identify that, oh my goodness, something's different. Don't be alarmed. Watch it. Watch the pattern. How often is it happening? Can this person logically explain what happened? Over time, you will notice that this is continuous. If it is continuous, it is worth looking into. And in her case, it was. It was a very drastic change for her. And when she went to get diagnosed, she was diagnosed with stage 1. Now, I talked about earlier typical aging changes. Now I'm going to talk about problematic changes. Okay? Anytime you notice any one of these changes, and it's consistent, going forward, all the time, not one time here and there, but happening more frequently. And yet, in your past, you've never had this problem before, then that could be a problem. But say, for example, one of these examples is, difficulty completing familiar tasks. Or maybe you're clumsy and you trip a lot as a young person. Well, if you've been clumsy all your life, being clumsy as a senior doesn't make you have Alzheimer's. But if you've been a track runner and you have a lot of agility, and one day you're walking and you trip a lot, you start tripping on everything, and you're bumping into chairs. That was a sudden change. That sudden change could be an indicator. It doesn't guarantee it's an indicator. It just means pay attention to your changes and go to a doctor. Okay? So the key with problematic changes is to make sure to evaluate, does it change my lifestyle? Does it disrupt my daily activities of life? What does that mean? I used to cook dinner. I love cooking. And then when I hit a certain age, I can't decide how to read a recipe. But I love cooking, and I always use recipes. I don't even remember to turn off the stove. And I am very conscious about the stove and have always been. And then now, all of a sudden, I don't really pay attention to it, and I just kind of walk away. Those are problematic changes of daily life. I used to be able to eat, I know breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and now I don't even get hungry. I don't know what time of the day it is to get hungry. Okay? Solving problems. I'm having challenges trying to put 2 and 2 together. It takes me an hour to add up 1 plus 1, when before I could easily do it in my mind. Or I can put 2 things together and add up 1 and 1. The logic of solving a problem is no longer there. Familiar tasks. I used to shower on my own and know that I have to wash my hair, my body, and my feet. Now I get in the shower and I don't know what to do with myself. Those are drastic changes. Confusion with time and place. You don't recognize your home. You wake up in the middle of the night and you think you're at a hospital or you're at your friend's house. You're lost in the middle of the night. Daytime. It's okay that we don't remember the day of the month. Sometimes we don't remember even what hour it is, because once you're in retirement stage, every day is a Saturday. Okay, and that's okay. But not knowing your home, not recognizing your car, your family, that becomes a challenge. Trouble with visual images. Number 5, visual images and spatial relationships. What does that mean? I have 20/20 vision. I've always had 20/20 vision. One day I'm walking by and I just didn't even see this table. That's a spatial recognition issue. You don't recognize the object because your vision is being affected by the disease. And you don't see the walls. You bump into a lot of walls, and now you're getting bruises on your arms a lot. That's common for problematic changes. We talked about speaking and writing. Words don't come to you like they used to. It's okay to forget a word once in a while, but it isn't okay to forget how to say a sentence Instead of using 10 words, you now use 3 words because you don't want to complicate things. Poor judgment. Before, you're a finance person, you're a CPA, for example, and you did all this math, all these different taxes, and you were just sharp as a tack. Now you look at it, and you're confused by what the forms are, you're confused by what gross income is, you're confused by the concept of it. That was your career for 50 years. How could you be confused? Those changes are problematic. Changes in mood and personality. There's nothing wrong with having a bad day. But when it is consistently every day at a certain time, we call it sundowners. When the sun goes down, your mood and your behavior changes. You get agitated easily. You are more confused about where you are. Did I have dinner? What am I supposed to do with myself? What is my plan? What is my goal today? Completely lost, completely confused. That is a big change. So what is dementia? As explained earlier, dementia is an umbrella of diseases. The most common you're going to see here are reversible dementias. Believe it or not, they are reversible. Why is it reversible? If someone takes medications out of sync, meaning the doctor, you have 20 medications, and the doctor prescribed AM, midday, PM, and you decide, I'm just going to take them all at night together. That happens, you know it, okay? When you do something like that, you create a complete mix-up in your body. That causes temporary dementia. So this is why getting diagnosed is really important. Vascular dementia. That is when the oxygen doesn't flow to your brain. It actually causes mini strokes. Mini strokes, if you have a series of them, are an indicator of vascular dementia. That is actually 13% of the population of folks who have this disease have vascular dementia. Then everyone here knows what Alzheimer's is. It's a brain deteriorating disease. And we'll talk more about what that means in a minute. Then you have Lewy body disease. Okay, Lewy body affects your personality, your behavior. Then you have a frontotemporal disease, and that's the shrinkage of the nerves in your brain. They're all related. They really are. But the most common is Alzheimer's and vascular. Everything else kind of falls into the other bucket. All right? Okay. So, in general, having dementia is not something you can diagnose on your own, nor can just any doctor. It's very important for you to understand that. Everyone thinks, I'm going to go see my primary, and that will solve it. They did a 10-minute test on you, and you're good to go. No, that is not the case. Okay? It's really important when someone diagnoses you with dementia to ask, what kind is it? What's going to happen to me? What are some of the changes that I can expect? Because it will be different depending on the different types of dementia. Normally, folks who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's will have a loss of some type of a function. Most time is speech. It could be behavior, personality changes, and even writing. Then you have to also ask yourself, is it reversible or not? So don't get alarmed until you know all the facts. Because if it is reversible, it's temporary. It will go away. All right, irreversible types of dementia. So when I said reversible, that was medication related. Alcohol. If you take a lot of alcohol, or maybe an alcoholic, that could cause you temporary dementia. Okay. Now, what's irreversible?
Say that again.
If you are an alcoholic, it could cause temporary dementia. You mix your alcohol, you mix it with your medications, all of that combined together will throw your body out of whack, and your mind out of whack, and that's temporary, unless you're a constant, obviously, alcoholic. But that's why it's called reversible. It is reversible depending on you. Okay? All right, so this is just a little chart that explains the most common dementia, and that's, you can see this pie. The blue part is Alzheimer's. The green is all the other dementias, and there's a lot of them. And then the orange kind of yellow is the vascular, the one that is the mini strokes, the one that has no oxygen going to your brain. This just tells you the magnitude of this disease. There's something else out there called mild cognitive impairment, MCI. You're going to hear that when you go to see your doctor. A lot of people have MCI. It does not mean you have Alzheimer's. What it does mean is that you have very subtle changes in you. You've noticed, your family noticed, your doctors noticed, and these changes make you a higher risk of getting Alzheimer's. It does not mean you have Alzheimer's, okay? So what is Alzheimer's? We talked about dementia, different types of diseases. In general, it is a brain disorder. It is when your brain, you have 100 million neuron cells in your brain. And when they shrink or get attacked and start shriveling and no longer function, that's what Alzheimer's does. It attacks your brain cells. Okay? People do not die from Alzheimer's. A person who is diagnosed with Alzheimer's can live between 3 and 20 years. Now, the average lifespan is between 4 and 8 years. It is not a disease like cancer. It doesn't eat away your key functioning body part that will give you life. What it does is it deteriorates your brain cells to the point where you are a danger to yourself. And that's why folks who have severe Alzheimer's or Alzheimer's have treatment, have proper care, and over time have folks, caregivers who take care of them full time because they become a danger to themselves. And that's why proper diagnosis up front is really important because everyone needs to know what is going on in the family to be able to properly plan. There is no cure, but there are medications out there that can help with some of the memory changes. It's not a guarantee. It's 50% success rate on some more than others. This is a video about Steve. This is Steve's point here is that he discovered he had signs of dementia by just sitting at work. One day he sat at work and he froze at his desk. Had no idea why he was there, what he was supposed to do. And that was an indicator for him. You all know yourself, as I mentioned earlier. You know your personal habits. You know your routine. When that day comes and you sit there and you just don't know what in the world you're doing there, start thinking about it and look for patterns. Okay? I mentioned earlier how the brain works. Our brains have 100 billion cells, nerve cells. Each of these nerve cells are called groups of neurons. Each group of neurons specializes in something. It could be teaching us how to talk, how to move, how to think, how to behave. And when those certain group is affected or shrinks, that's when you change. Because your brain's being attacked by this disease. This is a picture of your brain. You have language up here, vision here, basic functioning, including breathing here, movement, balance here, memory, hearing, language again here, and judgment, reasoning. Alzheimer's attacks our brains differently by person. There is a standard that it usually hits language first, usually. Some folks, it could be basic function first, although normally basic functioning like how to use the restroom, how to eat, how to drink a glass of water, that is usually last in the stages. But, like I said earlier, it affects everyone differently. The most common is your language, your memory, language, hearing, that goes first. Then it attacks your judgment, your reasoning, vision, your movement, your balance. This is important for you to watch. You're walking one day fine, and one day you start tripping, the next day you're tripping again, and you're tripping again, and then you wake up and you don't remember what happened. You have blackouts. Something is wrong. That's not normal aging. This is a very scary picture. On the left here is a healthy brain. On the right here, this is someone with the late stages of Alzheimer's. Look how much it has changed, how much deterioration it is, how healthy it is, and how deteriorated it is. That's why you have such loss in functioning capability that affects you in your daily routine of just eating. drinking water, using the restroom, getting up. Kitty is the next speaker, and Kitty was speaking about her husband. He was a very involved man in politics, involved in a lot of different things, and he just when he was involved during the. Are you all right there? Do we need to get you some water?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Steve was very involved in the whole Obama run for president back then, and what she said was they had no idea he had Alzheimer's, but what they realized was because of what he was doing with the entire political run and all the stuff he was doing for elections, he didn't get a lot of sleep. And when he didn't get a lot of sleep, the next day, he would be completely lost. Not normally tired like me and you, just completely lost. He had no idea what happened the day before, and just as if he had lost a whole day of his life. And that was an indicator for him and her that something was wrong. Okay, this slide talks about risk factors. A lot of people always say, if my parents have it or my brother has it, well, I have it. It's a great question. Genetics does have a picture in the possibility of getting Alzheimer's. I'll cover a few of these. The highest, most primary risk factor is age. You heard me say earlier, as you reach past 80, it becomes 4 out of 8 that are going to get Alzheimer's. Okay? Age is a big factor. It is also a big factor in women because we live longer than men. Down syndrome is another one. That if you have Down syndrome, it is definitely a risk factor. If you have a family history, if you have multiple generations that have had Alzheimer's, it is possible that you are a higher candidate. There are 2 genetic genes in your body that you can either have, and one of those will determine whether you are high risk or whether you will have it. Okay? And usually it has to do with the fact that if you've had it in multiple generations, most likely you would have it as well. But it doesn't mean everyone. Because part of the risk factors is your diet, your exercise. Someone who is active throughout their entire life, eating well, exercising, walking a lot, doing puzzles, doing stimulation activities with their mind. Doesn't mean they're not going to get Alzheimer's. It will delay the onset longer. Someone who's lethargic, always, I don't want to go out. I just want to sit here and watch TV. And they're sitting there every day doing nothing, but that's their life for 20 years. That person is not helping delay the onset. It is going to happen faster with someone with a high risk who has that type of a lifestyle. Lifestyle changes are very important for seniors. So I mentioned earlier about doctors. It is very important if you have these problematic changes, not typical aging, but problematic changes, to go see a doctor. There are primary doctors, and there are primary doctors who can diagnose. Be very careful. Not every doctor can do it. You want to make sure you do your homework and ask your doctor, are you certified to do Alzheimer's testing? If they're not, don't let them do it because it may not be the right test. There are diagnostic centers that the Alzheimer's Association provides a link to on their website, and all they do is testing on this particular disease. What's the difference? Your doctor may give you a 10-minute, 30-minute survey, a questionnaire. The diagnostic center is a 6-month process because it evaluates your pattern, your routine, your changes, evaluates your medications, your lifestyle. Those things all come into play to determine whether you should be diagnosed or not. It is not a random 30-minute assessment. Some doctors are specialty doctors that can do it. It could be geriatric doctors who specialize in seniors, neurologists, certain psychiatrists. The key is that you ask the right question. When you do start noticing these changes in you or a loved one, keep a log. What are these changes? What date did it start happening? And what kind of changes did you see? And then if you keep a log, you go back 2 weeks later, boy, this is consistently every day, and this never happened before. This log will be very helpful during the diagnostic assessment period for the doctor. When you go through the assessment, what they'll look at is your medical history. They'll do a mental status evaluation. They do other tests like memory tests, reasoning tests, visual motor coordination tests, language skills. They'll do a physical on you, a physical exam. You have a psychiatric evaluation. And then they'll interview your family to see what's changed in you, that your family's noticed. So it's very in-depth. Say you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. You or a loved one. What in the world do you do now? It's very emotional. It's a very sensitive time. What's really important is that you have family. You don't close out your family, because you cannot go through this alone. Your family needs to understand what you're going through, because their behavior and their approach with you is going to change. Just like if you have a loved one that's going through this, you will obviously have more patience. You're going to understand what's going on. So it's really important to not close the door on your family. Include your family. Some people are afraid of being diagnosed. I don't know why. It is a stigma for a lot of folks. Oh my God, I don't want anyone to know. I don't need my children to know. But that's really the wrong approach. Your family, your loved one, they need to be a part of this process, because you cannot handle this alone. Your changes, someone's got to start planning for you. Someone needs to plan for your health care, for your home care, for your financial, for your will. Everything needs to be taken and getting into order. Because while you can make a decision, while you have your thinking skills, you should dictate how you want things done. Don't wait till you're in stage 3 when you can't think anymore and have someone make the decision for you and how you want to be this or that, how your will is going to be handled. It's too late. As long as you have your mind, bring your family in. Go together as an experience. It is an experience for a long time, and you must include family. There are 3 stages. The early stage is very minor, very subtle. Many people will not even know they have Alzheimer's until they are usually in the 2nd stage. The early stage is a little bit of memory loss. You can't all of a sudden handle your money anymore. You don't really like being in social environments, and you were a social butterfly before. So that's early stage. Middle stage is when you really now have difficulty speaking. You can't keep track of your things in your house. You need help with personal care, your own grooming, bathing. The late stage is when you have short-term and long-term memory loss. You cannot remember a loved one that's been in your life for a long time. Your needs change physically, where someone needs to be with you 24/7. These are the 3 stages. It can go from 3 to 20 years. Most folks live between 4 and 8 when they're diagnosed. Monica here is a doctor, and what she wanted to share with you is please plan early. Reiterate what I said earlier. You notice symptoms and signs, get ahead of it. Don't go behind it when it's too late. If you get ahead of it, you can bring your family in. Don't close folks out. If you have a loved one that's being affected, get involved is what this is about. Don't close your eyes and think that it is going to go away. It is not going to go away. It will only be worse. Alzheimer's, dementia, it is a progressive disease. It can happen really quick for those who reach stage 2 and 3. Overnight, they can change dramatically. It's very important to have a support system, friends, family. Get legal and financial matters. I mentioned that earlier. Get education. The Alzheimer's Association has so much information on their website. They have courses available for family caregivers to teach you on the stages, to teach you how to care for someone with Alzheimer's, or just to teach you how to handle things, because it is going to be a dramatic change to that person's lifestyle and your interaction with that person. There are medications I had mentioned earlier that doctors prescribe. It is not a cure. There are many different medications nowadays, and they are a 50% success ratio. One medication may work for one person, not for the other. It is variable depending on the person. It is not going to cure you. It is going to delay the Alzheimer's onset. That's all it can do. But even then, timing is not something that anyone knows of what it can do. And that's exactly what Dr. Ron Peterson's video will say is, don't rely on the medication. It is only 50% successful. But there are a lot of studies being done, a lot of clinical studies. A clinical study, a clinical trial, is when they actually have researched enough of this particular medication to test it on animals, and now it's ready for a trial on humans. A lot of folks who've gone through the experience are now in the trial, and the trial is what helps us find, possibly a cure for the future. This disease has only been recognized for the last 15 years, believe it or not. So we don't have a lot of history with this disease. What's available to you? I mentioned earlier the Alzheimer's Association. They have educational programs for family. There's a 24-hour hotline in over 150 languages. If someone wanted to understand more about it, they can give you referrals to, well, what do I do? Where do I go to get this from my mother who has Alzheimer's? Or they give you care consultations over the phone. There's actually a care person that actually speaks to you and can listen to you and support you. It's a support group. You also have support groups in the community they'll send you to, and it's up to you whether you want to go and listen to other people who are going through the same thing you're going through. And that helps a lot. Safety services. There are some safety things to take into account when someone has Alzheimer's. They may be wanderers. The Alzheimer's Association supports the medical alert bracelet in case they wander and get lost. All their medical history is on there, their phone number, so that if they get lost, a family member can find them. Okay? So for us, what does this mean really for all of us? It's great to be educated, but what are we doing about it? We got to make a difference, get involved, learn, do things, get involved with the Alzheimer's Association. The more presence we have, the more there will be public presence at the federal level, which is already happening now with Obama. There is a walk to end Alzheimer's disease that happens 4 times a year. There's one in every single main metro area. Join a group or form a group and help support the cause. There's more material here about that if you're interested. This is the hotline. And there's material here, they'll give you the hotline, but it is 800-272-3900. And you can call the hotline anytime to get any more information. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to open the panel up for questions. I will not be able to answer every question, but what I cannot answer, I can at least write down and get back with you guys on. Does anyone have any questions?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
You said that if you have MCI, the mild cognitive impairment, it means you're more at risk for Alzheimer's. What do you do to lower the risk, or is there nothing that you can do?
You can do a lot of things to mitigate it. When you are diagnosed with MCI, the first thing you want to do is make sure that person, start evaluating what their habits are at their home. What are they doing all day? Most of my folks, my clients, are very lethargic. They don't want to do anything. They just want to watch TV. That is the problem. If they're diagnosed, get them to do puzzles, mind thinking activities. The Alzheimer's Association has a flyer on this on their website on activities you can do every day at home to help mitigate and delay this disease. It will not solve it. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just delays it. Get them more active. Evaluate their diet. Like I said earlier, what are they doing with their diet? Exercise. Those 3 things will help change the short term and delay that longer. Good question. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
The female coach of the Tennessee women's basketball team, Pat Summitt, she quit coaching because she was diagnosed with the early stage of Alzheimer's. Now, when she was diagnosed, it's like this, or was it chemically, can you find something, a marker that shows that you have a propensity for it?
I would not be able to answer that perfectly because I don't know everything that is being tested to be able to handle the testing. I do know right now there is an actual diagnostic center that does the test based on what we talked about, where you walk in, it's a 6-month process. They evaluate you physically, mentally, your ability to talk, your medications you're on, your lifestyle, and they interview your family. That is more of the traditional testing. The biomarker is a new concept. I don't know what it really means. I wouldn't be able to answer that for you. But at this point, the traditional method has been the most sponsored method with the Alzheimer's. And like I said, go to a professional who understands the process. And that will be a more accurate way.
I don't know, but I'll be talking. Normally I'm fine, I think.
No, that's not nice. Let's not laugh at her.
Yeah, baby. But I'll be talking to somebody about something, and all of a sudden, in the middle of it, I forget.
Your thought.
Yes. Why?
always been like that?
No.
And how long ago did you start noticing this?
Couple months.
And does it happen every day, throughout the day? Is it randomly?
Yes.
I'm not a doctor. I would not be able to diagnose that. What you have to distinguish, is it typical aging or is it Alzheimer's? There's a gray area between memory loss. It truly is. We all have moments where we forget something. And we all have moments where we can't find that right word. There's nothing wrong with that. What I would do is track it, log it. Write down on April so-and-so, March so-and-so, write it down. And then go back a few weeks later and look at your history of how often you noticed it. The more you can track it, the more your doctor can help you evaluate and make the recommendation. Is it time for you to get an evaluation, or is this just standard typical aging?
Do you just go to your family doctor or
You
something?
you can start with your family doctor and start talking about it. Now, not every primary physician is an expert on geriatric challenges. So I recommend you either see a geriatric doctor, but before you do that, log yourself.
Okay.
A pattern. They need to have a pattern. If you just come in there and just tell them what you just said to me, he'll tell you the same thing other than he is a professional. He'll tell you, well, I don't have enough to work with. And then he'll ask you a series of million questions, and you'll have to come back. So instead of doing that, log in everything that you observed about yourself and tell your family. Hey, you guys pay attention to me. What am I doing? And tell me, catch me, call me on it when you're seeing it. Okay, keep a good list. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering about, for her question too, how much either oxygen deprivation or limited oxygen has to do with this.
Well, yeah, it is a brain disease. If you don't have enough oxygen flowing to your...
Have not got enough oxygen.
Right. But you have a treatment. You're on oxygen. You have a certain number of liters they recommend, and you're following the protocol. Now, if you are non-compliant, say I refuse oxygen, I'm not going to do it. Then that's a different story. But you are all on a program and you're following it. That's different. So you're on a treatment program. I don't know how that would associate with it, but the best thing to look at is this. Vascular dementia is a diagnosis that they would actually have to tell you that you have it because you don't have enough oxygen going to your brain. And you've had mini strokes. Did you have a lot of mini strokes in the last 6 months? Me? All right. See, so that's what you want to ask. Oxygen flow could cause it, but there are a lot of people who are on oxygen, who have emphysema, who have other reasons. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be...
My question is more general than that. Typically, will limited amount of oxygen affect one's ability to think well and clearly? Because we all, no matter how much oxygen we are and how compliant we are, will have limited oxygen at times if we're walking faster.
Right. That is a great point. That's probably a question more for your doctor to talk about, just to be safe to get you the right answer that you need. But it's possible. I would say it's possible, but I wouldn't be able to support that. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. First of all, I too am bad with names. I am terrible with names. Some of us are like that. I've always been terrible with names. I will never ever be good at names. I remember hair, I remember clothes, I remember experiences, but I don't remember names. That's normal. The question is this how you were you always like this when you were younger? It's not a little bit wrong. So you've always had it, and it's hit and miss. It's part of being normal.
You want a couple pieces to take home?
Yes.
There's a lot left.
Trying to find a silver cloud in this life.
Uh-oh.
Silver lining in this cloud. Is there an advantage to early diagnosis like there is for so many other diseases, such as someone diagnosed in stage 1? Would they be started on medications earlier that would prolong the progression more? Or is there, I guess my question is there an advantage to early diagnosis?
Is there an advantage to early diagnosis? Absolutely. We highly recommend it when you start seeing a pattern of changes. Even if you don't know for sure, it's important for you to get diagnosed early. Medications will be given to you up front. It's not a cure, but it is going to help delay the process. Your doctor will evaluate your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle. That's going to change a lot of what's going to happen in the next few years. Your family will be brought in to be involved. That's going to help you go through the process because you will have changes in your ability to function mentally and physically. And it's very important to be diagnosed early for proper planning. When you are still able to make decisions for yourself. You know you want to live in your home. You don't want to go to a nursing home. But yet, if you wait till you are too severe in the stage, you can't make that decision. One of your relatives is going to make that for you. Is that what you want? Therefore, it's important for you to get diagnosed early and talk about it with your family and make the right decisions for you while you're able to make the decisions for yourself. Yes, sir.
Some of us experience what you call temporary dementia that's caused by medications. How long does it take for that to clear up if you cease the medications? I'm thinking in terms of like Ambien or something like that that causes memory loss.
I'm not a doctor. I wouldn't be an expert on that at all. You will have to consult the doctor for that. I highly recommend if you think you have temporary, you can't make that judgment, nor can I. Speak to a doctor. Bring your medications with you. And the doctor can sort through it, because sometimes you see multiple doctors and they don't speak to each other unless you're in the Kaiser system. So it's important to bring that with you and let the doctor evaluate and then have that conversation with your doctor. Okay. Yes, sir.
Is it safe to say that if you have something happen to you over a long period of time, that dementia is only something that is a change in the treatment period, like within a year?
No. It can happen. Some people who get diagnosed are usually in the middle stages, because when it's in the early stage, it's so subtle, they don't even know it happened. So no, it's not a time frame. It's not going to be in the period of 3 months that you're going to notice this. You're going to have these subtle changes in the beginning, just like what you're asking me now. It's very subtle right now. Who knows what it really is unless you see a professional. It's just important that when you start seeing a pattern, not one here, one there change, but a pattern, or a major change in your physical ability that you never had before, it's important to start the dialogue with your doctor, because it could lead to something. So I wouldn't be able to say it's 1 year, 2 months, 2 years, 3 years. No. As soon as you start noticing a pattern, log it, write it down, date it, timestamp it, watch it over time, and I guarantee you look at it in a few months, you go, oh, it's time to see my doctor. Or you know what? It's not a big deal. But regardless, have the conversation with your doctor. Okay. Anyone else? Well, that wraps up for me. Thank you, everyone. Great question.